Mr. President, dear colleagues, we are at a time fraught with challenges. COVID-19 has kept resurfacing. Global security faces uncertainty. Global economic recovery is fragile and unsteady, and various risks and crises are emerging. The world has entered a new phase of turbulence and transformation. Changes unseen in a century are accelerating. But we are also at a time full of hope. The world continues to move toward multipolarity, economic globalization is deepening, and our societies are becoming increasingly digitalized and culturally diverse. Countries are becoming ever more interconnected and interdependent. Peace and development remain the underlying trend of our times. People's call for progress and cooperation is getting louder. How should we respond to the call of our times and ride the trend of history to build a community with a shared future for mankind? China's answer is firm and clear. First, we must uphold peace and oppose war. President Xi Jinping notes that peace, like air and sunshine, is hardly noticed when we are benefited from it, but none of us can live without it. Peace is crucial for our future, and it underpins common security of all countries. Turbulence and war can only open Pandora's box, and he who instigates a proxy war can easily get himself burned. Pursuing one's own absolute security can only undermine global strategic stability. We must address differences by peaceful means and resolve disputes through dialogue and consultation. Second, we must pursue development and eliminate poverty. Development holds the key to resolving difficult issues and delivering a happy life to our people. We should place development at the center of the international agenda, build international consensus on promoting development, and upholding all countries' legitimate right to development. We should fostering new drivers for global development, forge a global development partnership, and see that everyone in every country benefits more from the fruits of development in a more equitable way. Third, we must remain open and oppose exclusion. President Xi pointed out that openness is the sure way to human prosperity and advancement. Protectionism can only boomerang, and decoupling and supply chain disruption will hurt everyone. We should stay true to openness and inclusiveness and tear down fences and barriers that hinder the free flow of factors of production. We should uphold the WTO-centered multilateral trading system and work for an open world economy. Fourth, we must seek cooperation and oppose confrontation. As we face a host of global challenges, our biggest strength will come from solidarity. Our best strategy is to stick together, and the only way forward is through win-win cooperation. It is natural that countries might have their differences and problems, but they should increase mutual understanding on the basis of equality and respect. We should engage in dialogue, consultation, and win-win cooperation, and reject conflict, coercion, and zero-sum game. We should jointly oppose group politics and bloc confrontation. Fifth, we must strengthen solidarity and oppose division. President Xi stated that countries around the world are like passengers on the same ship who share a common stake. All of us should pull together to navigate the ship through storm toward a bright future. Our world must embrace diverse civilizations in order to make continuous advances, and mankind must pursue an inclusive path in order to achieve modernization. Peace, development, fairness, justice, democracy, and freedom are common values of humanity. Difference in system should not be used as an excuse to create division. Still less should democracy and human rights be used as tools or weapons to achieve political ends. We should stand against drawing ideological lines and expand common ground to promote world peace and development. Sixth, we must uphold equity and oppose bullying. Mutual respect and equity of countries big and small is a primary principle of the UN Charter. Major international issues should be handled by all countries, and international rules drawn up by all countries together. No country is above others, and no country should abuse its power to bully other sovereign countries. We should advocate and practice true multilateralism, promote equity of all countries in terms of rights, rules, and opportunities, and build a new type of international relations featuring mutual respect, equity, and justice, and win-win cooperation. Mr. President, colleagues, China, as a permanent member of the Security Council and the world's largest developing country, is committed to solidarity and cooperation with other countries. It will follow the trend of the times and pursue the shared interests of the vast majority of countries. China has been engaging in building global peace. We have actively promoted international peace and participated in international arms control, disarmament, and non-proliferation process. China is the top contributor of peacekeeping personnel among the P5, and it is the second largest founding contributor to both the UN and its peacekeeping operations. China is the only country in the world that pledges to keep to a path of peaceful development in its constitution. It is the only one among the 5 nuclear weapon states that is committed to no first use of nuclear weapons. It has thus made important contribution to global strategic stability. In response to the various security challenges, President Xi proposed the Global Security Initiative. He called on the international community to pursue common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security, to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries, to abide by the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, to take the legitimate security concerns of all countries seriously, to peacefully resolve disputes through dialogue and consultation, and to maintain security in both traditional and non-traditional domains, thus contributing China's vision to reducing the peace deficit facing humanity and providing China's input to meeting global security challenges. China has been contributing to global development. We have worked to build a system of high-standard opening up and keep the global industrial and supply chains secure and stable. China is a major trading partner of over 130 countries and regions. Contributing about 30% of annual global growth, China is the biggest engine driving the global economy. China is a pace setter in implementing the 2030 Agenda. It has met the poverty reduction goal 10 years ahead of schedule and accounts for over 70% of the gains in global poverty reduction. China is also an active participant in global governance and South-South cooperation. It has set up the China UN Peace and Development Trust Fund and the Global Development and South-South Cooperation Fund. It has provided development aid to more than 160 countries in need and extended more debt service payments owed by developing countries than any other G20 member. At the 76th UNGA session, President Xi proposed the Global Development Initiative. Putting the people front and center, the GDI is a rallying call to refocus global attention on development and build a global community of development. At the recent high-level dialogue on global development, President Xi announced dozens of major concrete steps to implement the GDI, generating strong impetus for accelerating the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. On the margins of this UNGA session, China hosted a ministerial meeting of the Group of Friends of the GDI, building more consensus on pursuing this initiative. As China forges ahead, its fast train of development will continue to drive global growth and deliver more benefits to people of all countries. China has been upholding the international order. We are committed to the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, the UN-centered international system, and the international order based on international law. China has been involved in multilateral affairs in all fields. It is a member of almost all universal intergovernmental organizations and a party to over 600 international conventions. It has concluded more than 27,000 bilateral treaties and fulfilled in good faith its international obligations. China abides by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and has made relentless efforts to protect and strengthen its human rights. We stand firmly against attempts to politicize human rights and worked to promote healthy development of international human rights cooperation. As a member of the developing world, China will forever stand with other developing countries. We are heartened to see the rapid progress achieved by the developing world in recent years, and we will continue to speak up for other developing countries, help them overcome difficulties, and support efforts to raise the representation and say of developing countries in international affairs. Developing countries are no longer the silent majority in international and multilateral processes. With stronger solidarity, China and other developing countries have spoken out for justice and become a pillar of promoting development cooperation and safeguarding equity and justice. China has been providing public goods. In the face of COVID-19, China has fully advanced and engaged in global cooperation against the virus. We have done our best to provide anti-COVID supplies and shared our practices on COVID response. China is among the first to promise making COVID vaccines a global public good and to support waiving intellectual property rights on the vaccines. China has provided over 2.2 billion doses of vaccines to more than 120 countries and international organizations. In response to tough challenges confronting global development, President Xi proposed to advance high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, an initiative widely endorsed by the international community. China has signed cooperation documents with 149 countries and 32 international organizations. We have set up the AIIB and the Silk Road Fund, thus building the broadest and most inclusive platforms for international cooperation. In response to the shared concerns about data security, we have launched the Global Initiative on Data Security as our contribution to formulating rules on global data security. In response to climate change, China is committed to a development path that puts ecological conservation first, one of green and low-carbon growth. We announced the ambitious carbon peaking and carbon neutrality goals and are working to implement the Paris Agreement. China accounts for 1/4 of all the trees planted globally. We are making unremitting efforts for a community of life for man and nature. In response to global food security challenges, China has put forth a cooperation initiative on global food security. This year, we have provided over 15,000 tons of emergency humanitarian food assistance to other developing countries in need. China has been mediating hotspot issues. As a responsible major country, China has explored workable Chinese approaches to solving hotspot issues. While adhering to the principle of non-interference and respecting the will and needs of the countries concerned, China has endeavored to help settle hotspot issues in a constructive way. Our approach is to promote peace through talks, which is fair and pragmatic and aims to address both the symptoms and root causes of hotspot issues. China supports all efforts conducive to the peaceful resolution of the Ukraine crisis. The pressing priority is to facilitate talks for peace. The fundamental solution is to address the legitimate security concerns of all parties and build a balanced, effective, and sustainable security architecture. We call on all parties concerned to keep the crisis from spilling over and protect the legitimate rights and interests of developing countries. The Palestinian question is at the heart of the Middle East issue. Justice is already late, but it must not be absent. The two-state solution is crucial for upholding fairness and justice. China will continue to support the Palestinian people in pursuing their just cause of restoring legitimate national rights. To resolve the Korean nuclear issue, it is important to address its root cause. We need to follow the dual-track approach and the principle of taking phased and synchronized steps, and jointly uphold peace and stability on the peninsula and resolve the issue through dialogue and consultation. Afghanistan is in a critical transition from chaos to order. The right way forward is to put in place an inclusive political framework and adopt moderate policies. The goal should be to resume economic growth and improve people's lives, with fighting terrorism and integrating into the region being the priorities. A few countries have arbitrarily imposed unilateral sanctions, cut off development aid, and frozen lawful assets of other countries. This is an unacceptable practice that must be corrected. China firmly supports the Cuban people in their just struggle to defend their sovereignty and oppose external interference and blockade. The abuse of guns is becoming an increasingly serious problem across the world. China has decided to launch its domestic procedure to ratify the UN's Firearms Protocol, which will contribute to strengthening global cooperation on gun control and closing the security deficit. Mr. President, colleagues, since ancient times, Taiwan has been an inseparable part of China's territory. China's sovereignty and territorial integrity has never been severed, and the fact that the mainland and Taiwan belong to one and the same China has never changed. All of us Chinese have never ceased our efforts to realize reunification. It is explicitly stated in the Cairo Declaration and the Potsdam Proclamation issued 70-odd years ago that all the territories Japan has stolen from the Chinese, including Taiwan and the Penghu Islands, shall be restored to China. This is an important part of the post-war international order. 51 years ago, right in this August hall, the General Assembly adopted Resolution 2758 with an overwhelming majority, which decided to restore the lawful seat of the PRC in the UN and to expel the representatives of the Taiwan authorities from the place they had unlawfully occupied. The so-called dual representation proposal put forth by the US and a few others to keep Taiwan's seat became nothing but a piece of paper. Once and for all, Resolution 2758 resolved politically, legally, and procedurally the issue of the representation of the whole of China, including Taiwan, in the UN and international institutions. Yet it completely blocked any attempt by anyone or any country to create two Chinas or one China, one Taiwan. The One China principle has become a basic norm in international relations and a consensus of the international community. When entering into diplomatic relations with China, 181 countries all recognized and accepted that there is but one China in the world and Taiwan is a part of China, and that the PRC government is the sole legal government representing the whole of China. By firmly upholding the One China principle, China is not only upholding its sovereignty and territorial integrity, but also truly safeguarding peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, the principle of non-interference, a basic norm in international relations that is vital for developing countries. China will continue to work for peaceful reunification with the greatest sincerity and efforts. To realize this goal, we must combat Taiwan independence separatist activities with the firmest resolve and take the most forceful steps to repulse external interference. Only by resolutely forestalling separatist activities can we forge a true foundation for peaceful reunification. Only when China is completely reunified can there be enduring peace across the Taiwan Strait. Any scheme to interfere in China's internal affairs is bound to meet the strong opposition of all Chinese, and any move to obstruct China's reunification is bound to be crushed by the wheels of history. The international community closely follows China's development. Since the 18th CPC National Congress, 10 years ago, socialism with Chinese characteristics has entered a new era. In the past decade, China has made historic achievements and transformation in pursuing economic and social development. In this decade, it also realized a historic leap in its relations with the world and made historic contributions to the international community. China is fully implementing a new development philosophy of innovative, coordinated, green, and open development for all, and is pursuing high-quality development and fostering a new development paradigm. With the strong leadership of the CPC, concerted efforts of the 1.4 billion people, the strengths of socialism with Chinese characteristics, a solid foundation underpinning sustained rapid development, and strong confidence in achieving development through its own efforts, China will enjoy sustained and sound development, usher in even brighter prospects, and make more miracles come true. Mr. President, colleagues, with 1/5 of the global population, China's march toward modernization has important, far-reaching significance for the world. The path that China pursues is one of peace and development, not plunder and colonialization. It is a path of win-win cooperation, not zero-sum game. And it is one of harmony between man and nature, not destructive exploitation of resources. We will continue to contribute our input to meeting the challenges facing human development and make our contribution to creating a new form of human advancement. Next month, the CPC will convene its 20th National Congress. This Congress will, in response to the expectation of all the Chinese people, set well-conceived goals and tasks for China's development in the next 5 years and beyond, and draw an overarching plan for China's future development. Having reached a new historical starting point, China will follow the Chinese path to modernization to achieve its national rejuvenation. China will work with other countries to safeguard peace and development, shoulder the responsibility for boosting solidarity and progress, build a community with a shared future for mankind, and embrace an even better world. Thank you all.
I thank the State Councillor and Minister for Foreign Affairs of China.